Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Once again, we have another requested figure. When I did put that video up of my recent dino scores, there were quite a few figures that people in the comment section were asking to be reviewed, and this Megalosaurus from Invicta was definitely one of those figures. So I thought, what the heck, this is a beautiful figure even if it is extremely outdated, and I was really excited myself to finally acquire one, so why would we not take a look at it here on the channel. As you may or may not know, the Invicta figures are really old. I think they're from probably the 1980s, so as far as scientific accuracy goes, you can throw that out the window, but if you are looking for incredibly beautiful, quite highly detailed, vintage-looking dinosaur figures, you need not to look any further than the Invicta line because they really look just fantastic, and when you actually apply some paint to them, they go to another level of beauty, honestly. You never realize just how incredibly nice the sculpts of the figures are until you actually add some paint to them. But regardless, let's go ahead, get a closer look at this Megalosaurus from Invicta and see just how nice the details actually are. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see straight away that this honestly looks really quite beautiful. For the time that this was made, this is incredibly impressive as far as sculpt and detail goes. The detail all around the eye looks really nice. The skin texture in general on the head really looks quite beautiful. You can pick up on the teeth there, on the upper jaw kind of protruding down there onto the lower jaw. Really looks quite nice. The nostrils are beautifully sculpted as well. Even the top of the head sports some pretty nice skin texture and everything up there as well. You can see that there is a seam that runs the length of the head, but that doesn't really bother me at all. It still looks really quite nice. I am a huge fan of the dangling skin here in the throat, as when I was a child, a lot of dinosaurs back in the day were always shown kind of with like hanging skin, especially like the carnivores like T-Rex, Megalosaurus, things like that, always kind of were displayed with that hanging skin in the throat, so I really associate that with a vintage feel, and that's exactly one of the reasons I think I really like this Megalosaurus so much. Not to mention the fact that it's such an obscure species, so it's really cool in general for this to have got a figure from way back then. As you come down the neck, you can see lots of really nice wrinkling in the skin. Beautiful skin texture as you run down here into the shoulder area. As I turn this, you can see the shoulder blade protruding from the skin quite a bit there. You come down into the arms, you can get an idea of the musculature there of the arms and almost pick up on the bone structure that runs down the length of the arm. The hands are sculpted pretty nicely. The fingers are all kind of meshed together, but it still looks nice, and with some paint on it would probably look really beautiful. However, I am not going to paint my Megalosaurus unless I acquire another one, just because I do really want to keep this original. You can see the very nice skin texture here in the stomach, and kind of get an idea of the skin pulling off of the leg there a little bit in the stomach region. You can see a very armored type of an appearance up here on the top of the back. You've kind of got some ridges that run along the spine as well. Beautiful sculpt and detail all amongst those also. You can get an idea of the hip bone a little bit right there protruding from the skin. Also the really nicely defined musculature there in the thigh. You've got kind of a scoot type of an appearance that runs up the length of the front of the entire leg. As you move down the leg, you can kind of pick up on the musculature here in the calf. Very nicely sculpted feet, but the feet aren't incredible looking or anything, but they are, again, the toes are all kind of meshed together, similar to what you saw on the hands, but I still think it looks pretty nice. And then as you run down the length of the tail, it kind of picks up that very armored type of a look when it comes to the way that they've sculpted out the skin texture all the way down, and it really looks quite awesome down to that classic dragging tail on the ground. When you look at the opposing side, once again, you can pick up on the teeth. That incredibly nice hanging skin there in the throat. He has a very grumpy look on him, exactly what I would expect, because when I was a child, dinosaurs were always kind of portrayed like these very large, mean lizards. So that's exactly the feeling that I get looking at the head sculpt of this Megalosaurus. Again, the very nice skin texture here in the back of the neck as you run down here into the shoulder blades, which you can see protruding from the skin a little bit. Beautiful arm on this side as well. It is in exactly the same position as you see on the opposing side. Nice skin texture here in the stomach also. Again, you can see the skin kind of stretching with the leg as well. Nice musculature here on this side with the leg. Beautiful leg sculpt and beautiful foot sculpt, just like you saw on the opposing side. However, on this side, the toes are actually separated a little bit, which is really nice to see, very cool. And then you've got that armored type of an appearance, once again when it comes to the skin texture, as it runs out the length of the tail down in that tripod position. The underside of the dinosaur sports kind of basic sculpt work, nothing overly flashy. But again, these were made in the 80s, so this is definitely a very old figure. So for the time, the sculpt and detail on this is really, really impressive. As far as the size goes on our Invicta Megalosaurus, now don't take the size of this one into consideration for the size of all of the Invicta figures, because they're all over the place when it comes to size. Honestly, there are some very large ones like the Brachiosaurus, and then there are some nice sized ones that are smaller like the Megalosaurus. I'm not positive if they are actually all to scale with each other. I have no idea. I never actually really thought about it. They may be, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm actually going to look into that because that's actually something that is really interesting to me. And if they are all to scale, that would be really, really awesome and actually make me like this line even more than I already do. So for a length, if we are looking at the length from the tip of the tail to the snout of the Megalosaurus, you are looking at about just a hair under 8 inches, honestly, or about 20 and a half centimeters, somewhere in that range. And for a height on the Megalosaurus, you're looking about 3 3/4 inches or so, or about 9.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, and now, like I told you, this is a fairly small figure, and you can really see that here next to the Papo T-Rex. Again, the Papo T-Rex is actually pretty darn big, so it shows that this is a small figure, but he's not that small. I mean, he's definitely got a pretty small stature to him, but he's trying his hardest to be as big as the Papo T-Rex. It's just really not quite cutting it. However, as far as sculpt and detail for its time, it is a fantastic figure, and due to its smaller stature, it's something that can quite easily fit into a collection if you are interested in hunting one of these down. So this Invicta Megalosaurus is beautiful. I really, really love this figure. I've always loved it every time I saw it online, but I was never able to acquire one until recently, and I can tell you with complete honesty that I am beyond excited and beyond happy with this purchase. I am really, really happy to have this now in my collection. And if you guys are interested in more Invicta figures, depending on how this review goes when it comes to how many people do actually want to see it and watch it, I may review some more of these figures. So if you do want to see more Invicta reviews, definitely let me know in the comments. But regardless, as far as this Megalosaurus goes, it is just off the charts awesome. I love the very vintage feel and appearance to it. I think it just looks fantastic and looks honestly like they took a dinosaur straight out of my brain from what I thought a carnivore looked like in my childhood and really brought it straight to life right here and put it in front of me in figure form. I love it. Absolutely love the appearance of this figure because I am a huge fan of the vintage dinosaur because, again, that's what I grew up on, so it's always going to stay near and dear to my heart. This Megalosaurus is exactly that, about as vintage of a dinosaur as you're going to find. The sculpt is really nicely detailed and does actually sport some very nice sculpt for its time, considering the 1980s were quite a long time ago. This is really beautifully sculpted from back then. The Invicta figures were kind of ahead of their time in my opinion, and even though they are very vintage, but as far as sculpt and detail, you didn't really get this kind of sculpt and detail too often from different companies, so that is one thing that Invicta did really well and really excelled at when it came to their prehistoric figures. I think the fact that they don't really include any other paint on them aside from one solid color is a bit of a bummer. I would have loved to have seen them actually paint their figures up a bit, but at the same time, when it came to the Invicta figures, that was kind of their charm, and one of the things that I think a lot of people do like about them and hold near and dear to their hearts is the fact that they were just one solid color. It's something that a lot of people played with as a child, myself included, so the one solid color thing really isn't too big of an issue to me. So once again, this figure is awesome. If you are a fan of vintage dinosaurs, you don't need to look any further than the Invicta line. However, if you're more of a fan of more up-to-date, scientifically accurate dinosaurs, you're probably going to want to skip the Invicta line. So if you are interested in this Megalosaurus, I will do my best to find one on eBay for you that is up for sale, and include a link in the description for anybody that is interested in picking one of these up. So go ahead, check the description if you do want to find one of these. Either way though, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.